Why am I allowed to hang out with my friends? Because the law protects my right to be here. And why am I allowed to talk to you, and you, and you? Because the law protects my freedom of speech. And why are these cars on the road and not the sidewalk? Because it's the law. Our rights and our laws are protected in our nation's belief in what's called the rule of law. It works the same for you, for your parents, teachers, celebrities, professional athletes, the president, and the people that you're about to meet.
The rule of law, to me, means that everybody is treated fairly and equally under the same set of rules.
The rule of law simply means that in America, and more specifically in Virginia, there are standards of conduct. And those standards of conduct come to us in the form of laws, and the laws are passed by the General Assembly of Virginia or by the Congress of the United States. We are a nation of law and not a nation of people. We don't make exceptions because somebody is rich, somebody is poor, somebody is black, somebody is white, somebody is a female, or somebody is a male. Rather, everybody should be treated equally under the law.
Our founding fathers built this country based on that concept, the rule of law. They knew that our American experience depended on living free of governmental interference, creating opportunities for others, and making sure that you could do the things in your daily lives that would allow you to enjoy, live, work, play, go to school, do all the things that you do, and also do it in an environment where we do it very peacefully. And the reason we're able to do it peacefully is because we all agree that the law is what we will obey above all else.
So the rule of law must go way back in history.
The rule of law is based in our Constitution and is preserved and protected by our courts.
I knew that. See, I'm patting myself on the back. But what does that mean to us today?
The rule of law is important to each of us because if you get in trouble, you know that there are certain rules that will be applied to you just like everybody else. If you do something wrong, there will be an independent, impartial person deciding what is going to happen as a result of that. You aren't going to be taken to jail unfairly. You aren't going to be whisked away from your family without any notice. You know what the rules are, and you know that they'll be applied fairly to you.
Hand me that. No man is above the law, and no man is below it.
Roosevelt was right, that the law is going to look at your facts, look at the law, and decide, as courts do, that no one is above the law. They are subject to the laws that have been passed by our society.
I think the concept that no person is below the law means that everyone enjoys the protection of the law.
The rule of law means that people have agreed that there are certain laws or rules they're going to live by, and that those rules will be applied equally and fairly to everyone, regardless of where you live, or who your dad is, or how much money you have or don't have.
I tend to look at the rule of law as being somewhat similar to the rules of the road. You have the right to drive a car, but you have an obligation to obey the speed limits. You can't drive a car 100 miles an hour through a school zone. You have to yield to the public's right to be safe from irresponsible driving.
Rule of law equals rights plus responsibilities.
You must always remember that there are consequences to every decision that you make, and the law will be applied irrespective of whether you happen to be a good person or a bad person.
The rule of law is all about everybody agreeing to play by the rules. You play by rules every day. There are rules at school, there are rules in athletics, there are rules in test taking. All of those things you agree that you're going to do because they are the rules.
A few years ago, my court considered a case involving a teacher who mistakenly brought a gun to school. She was tried and convicted of possessing a gun in a public school. The result was very, very harsh because the teacher has a felony record. She could no longer practice her profession, which is the teaching school kids, and she couldn't vote. I mean, she lost many of her civil rights. We felt, and indeed I felt, very sorry for the teacher. But the question was not how I as a judge feel. The question is, what is the rule of law and how is that rule to be applied?
Wow, so the law really doesn't care who you are.
It's important to understand that we govern ourselves by rules that we feel are in the best interest of our country, not what is in the best interest of us personally.
We are very, very fortunate to live in a country where we live free. Others aren't so fortunate. And the reason that we live free is because the Founding Fathers, some of whom were citizen lawyers, understood that the rule of law needed to be the basis for this special form of government that we have.
I have helped many countries in the world write laws and adopt constitutions. I know of no better way to resolve disputes than America's system of justice.
Very often when we're thinking of the rule of law, we define it by where it doesn't exist. We see on the news or in the paper places where judges are fired because of their ruling, where people are rioting in the street because they don't get along. In our country, that doesn't happen. That's because we have the rule of law.
Okay, the other one. In America, we have the rule of law. To me, that means the law rules.
Under our rule of law, you will find that things that guarantee our rights to speech and to worship and to own property and to do other things are protected by our system of government, by the legislature that passed the laws, by the executive branch that enforced the laws or administered the laws, and the courts that interpreted those laws.
The best way that you can preserve your rights is to learn as much as you can about the law. You and I enjoy many freedoms that most people around the world do not enjoy. The best way that you can protect those freedoms is to become knowledgeable and to read, learn, and educate yourself.
The book To Kill a Mockingbird is a story about life in a small town. It's also a story about how a particular man in his community can make a real difference. Atticus Finch was a lawyer. Atticus believed in the rule of law. That's why he took Tom Robinson's case. He knew that the judges on appeal would apply the law fairly, without prejudice, and set Tom Robinson free. That is what the rule of law is all about. I read it at least once a year, and every time I read it, I get more and more out of it.
I've read it just once, but it really helped me see why we need the rule of law.
One of the freedoms we have in this country, which we don't always articulate, we don't say it often enough, is the freedom of inquiry. I think under the rule of law, we have the right to ask questions. We may not like the answers, but at least in asking, we learn. And in learning, we understand. And in understanding, we can protect the rights that we have.
I can say without hesitation that in Virginia and in America, we follow the rule of law. And if the rule of law requires that the powerful lose and the meek and poor win, that is good. If the law requires that the poor lose and the powerful win, that too is good, because we do not serve men or women, we serve the law.
So maybe life isn't always fair, but the rule of law really is.